Hello everybody and welcome once more to the Educator Effectiveness Ratings webinar. We again are very excited that you're all able to join us today. If you are calling in to the conference call line, please mute your phones or we'll be able to hear everything on your end. Again, if you are having problem with your audio, please submit a question Q&A. If you notice, we do have some files available for download, Public Act 173, which is the Educator Evaluation legislation, and the webinar deck for today. We're going to move into the presentation screen in a second, but those will be available to download at the end of the presentation as well. And we'll also send you a copy of today's presentation deck in a follow-up email. So first, just going over a little bit of a tech check. One, right now you should be seeing a PowerPoint on your screen, hopefully. And you should be able to hear the facilitators. We are talking right now, so if you can't hear us, let us know. If accessing audio through the conference call line, again, please mute your phone. And then if you're having difficulty with technology, please use the Q&A pod to inform us, or you may also email Yolanda Stevens at stevensy, that's S-T-E-P-H-E-N-S-Y @michigan.gov. So first, a little welcome and introduction. So I'm Marty Snitchen. I will be your host today. I'm the Educator Supports Network Analyst in the Office of Educator Talent. At the Office of Educator Talent, we work with supporting districts in implementing educator evaluation systems. We also run many recognition programs such as Michigan Teacher of the Year, and we work with some research on workforce data. With me today is Melanie Love, a departmental analyst from the Office of Professional Preparation Services. And they work with the certification side of everything, and she will be talking about viewing ratings in MOEX and the MOEX, well, and the Michigan Online Educator Certification System. And then also today we have Caitlin Groom, a data collections analyst from the Center for Educational Performance Information, otherwise known as CEPI, C-E-P-I. And she'll be talking about the REP, which is the Registry of Educational Personnel. So a couple things to know. We do have near 100 participants today, so please, if you have a question, use the Q&A function on your screen. That will send the question directly to us. It won't go to anyone else, and we'll be able to answer it privately. We will collect all the questions, and if we do not get to yours, do not worry. We will answer them. We'll get to them after this presentation. Complete the Q&A document, and then we'll send it in a follow-up email to everybody so you have answers to all questions after we've kind of had a chance to generalize them. And again, because we have near 100 participants, we will not be using the raise your hand feature. So if you could just submit all questions to the Q&A. Just a couple definitions in case people are not familiar, but you will hear us speak of the REP quite often, and that's the Registry of Educational Personnel, as I mentioned already. That is where educator effectiveness ratings are entered, and we'll talk about that. And then most of you are familiar with MOEX, the Michigan Online Educator Certification System. So our purpose and agenda today, mostly we want to make sure that districts and educators have a clear understanding of educator effectiveness ratings by reviewing each of the following. So one, we're going to talk about the legislation that influences educator evaluation. Two, we will detail the effects on certification. We'll then talk about effectiveness ratings and data that is presented and the data that's not presented in MOEX. And then we'll detail how a data appeal is submitted to the Registry of Educational Personnel, or the REP. then we'll also give you a little more detail on the data appeals window, which is open now and opened September 1st of this year and will last till December 1st of next year. So we're going to start by going over the legislation. So before we get too far, one piece of legislation that is important to know is actually Public Act 170 of 2016, but Michigan Compiled Law 380, subsection or section 1249, subsection 8, defined a teacher. I'm not going to read this entire definition to you, but the important part is a teacher is an individual with a valid Michigan teaching certificate in grades K to 12 as teacher of record. Now this is an important piece of legislation because this definition is what differentiates what ratings are pulled over into MOEX, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. So when wondering who needs ratings and everything for certification, this is the definition that is followed. So looking at the Educator Evaluation Law, Public Act 173 of 2015, so basically this maintained the requirement of assigning one of 4 effectiveness labels. So these were already required, but this just maintained that, but you're probably all familiar with the highly effective, effective, minimally effective, or ineffective being used. It also created new requirements for teacher certificate progression, along with the renewal of the advanced professional certificate based on educator effectiveness labels for the most recent 5-year period. So taking a closer look at the legislation with certification, and first, if you have just joined in through the conference call line, please make sure you mute your phone because we can hear a little bit of feedback there. Thank you. We appreciate it. Yep. Please remember to mute your phone if you've joined on the conference call line. Anyway, MCL 380 1531J, this will take effect on July 1st of 2018. So this has to do with a professional certificate. So in order to advance, or not advance, in order to progress from the provisional certificate to the professional certificate, a teacher shall meet the following: successfully completed 3 years of teaching, and that would fall under that definition that we talked about earlier, and receive effective or highly effective ratings on his or her 3 most recent annual year-end evaluations. It also states that you can have 3 non-consecutive effective or highly effective as long as you have a recommendation for the certificate progression from your current school administrator. And then there is additional criteria that you can find on this link, which is located on the Office of Professional Preparation Services website. And again, please note that this starts July 1st of 2018. This has not taken effect yet. It will within the next year. So 380.1531K took effect immediately, November 5th of 2015. And this laid out what you needed for the Advanced Professional Certificate. The Advanced Professional Certificate is actually a new certificate that was just introduced of January of this year. So in order to progress or to renew, so in this case, renewal is part of this legislation, but you would need a highly effective rating on 3 out of the 5 most recent annual year-end evaluations under Section 1249, not been rated ineffective within the 5 most recent years. So you cannot have had an ineffective rating in 5 most recent years. And then also meeting that additional criteria that's established by the department that can also be found at this link. Now again, this does affect the progression and renewal of the Advanced Professional Certificate. However, for the Professional Certificate, it only affects that progression from provisional to professional. So effectiveness ratings don't just affect certification. They have other outcomes. So I do want to kind of talk a little bit about some of those outcomes. So first, looking at the highly effective rating. If you have 2 highly effective ratings in the 2 most recent evaluations, it means that 2 observations are not required. Now, this is a lot of times confused. This is speaking to observations in the classroom. So the legislation did state that everyone needed to be observed at least twice. So what this piece of legislation does is say if you've been highly effective, and actually this applies to the effective rating as well, that you would not need the 2 observations. The district could choose to observe you in the classroom just once. Now, it doesn't specify how many times you need to be observed, plus it is important to know that a lot of the evaluation tools actually ask for more than 2 observations. So a school could, even though you do qualify, that you're not required to have 2, they may observe you 2, 3, 4, 5 times, depending on their protocols and their board policy and their teacher evaluation tool that they have chosen. So again, that does apply to the effective rating as well. The other piece of legislation affecting highly effective ratings is that if you have 3 consecutive highly effective ratings, the district may choose to conduct biannual evaluations. So that's just saying that if you've had 3 in a row after that 3rd one, the next year, your district could choose to exempt you from the end of your evaluation. Then the following year, you would have to be evaluated again. Now, if you are to get anything lower than highly effective on any of those evaluations, you will go back to every year.
Hello?
Hello, if you're just joining us through conference call, please make sure you mute your phone. We do have about 100 people on the line. All right. So other effectiveness label outcomes, the ineffective rating. So first, you have if you have 3 consecutive ineffective ratings, this will lead to dismissal, and this is in MCL 380-1249-2J. Also, for the ineffective rating, if you have an ineffective rating or a minimally effective rating, you are required to have a mid-year progress report and an individualized development plan. Also, through the legislation, they have set out how someone can appeal an ineffective rating. So if you are non-probationary teachers, the probationary teachers are not able to appeal the ineffective ratings. You may appeal an ineffective rating within 20 days of notice of the rating with no more than 2 appeals in 3 years. Now, this does not mean that you cannot appeal any other rating. That would be a local process if whatever process your local district has in place for you to dispute your rating. But the legislation does clearly spell out what needs to happen to appeal an ineffective. And then finally, in 380-1249A, it states that students shall not be assigned to be taught in the same subject area for 2 consecutive years by a teacher with 2 recent consecutive ineffective ratings. Now, please note the legislation does not say anywhere by the same teacher. It's just that a student should not be taught in the same subject area for 2 consecutive years by a teacher with 2 recent consecutive ineffective ratings. Again, just if you are joining on conference call, please mute your phone. We are getting some noise in the background. Thank you. So because of all these outcomes that are associated with educator effectiveness ratings, that's why MDE and CEPI is bringing you the data appeals window. So the data appeals window did open up September 1st, and it will run through December 1st. So the data appeals window just allows the districts and PSAs to submit data appeals within the rep for inaccurate teacher evaluation data submitted for any of the past 5 years. So, and we'll kind of go over what you should do, but if you find that you have inaccurate data, you want to contact your district and work with them through their appeals process, through their data appeals process, and they have to December 1st to submit a data appeal. Now, if you do work with your district and you had an inaccurate rating and they go in and submit that data appeal, it will be available for viewing in MOEX as soon as it's entered in the rep. So that will be automatic. It will carry right over. It is important to note that this appeals window is only for the purpose of appealing errors in the reporting data to CEPI, not a process for contesting the outcome evaluation. So if you're looking to dispute your evaluation, you will still contact your district, still go through their appeals process, but that really can happen whenever your district allows it to happen. So this September 1st, December 1st is just when they are able to go in and update any inaccurate ratings that are reported to the rep. So with this, what educators need to do. If you are in an instructional role and under an instructional assignment, log into MOEX account, www.michigan.gov/MOEX, and check the accuracy of your evaluation data. Make sure that it matches up with your records. For educators in non-instructional assignments, it's still important to check your records and your evaluation data. But you will have to contact your district and obtain a printout of the rating that the district submitted to the rep, or a screenshot. But it is important, if you are not in an instructional role and you don't have your ratings aren't showing up in MOEX, contact your district, get a printout or screenshot of the rep data. It doesn't mean that you don't have educator effectiveness ratings entered into the rep. It just means that, well, we'll go over what that means in a little bit on why you might not see data in MOEX. So again, if there's a discrepancy in your rating, please contact your district that reported the data and go through the process for submitting a data appeal. It will be very important to be proactive and follow up to ensure that an appeal is submitted during the window, which ends December 1st. So I know sometimes communication can be difficult, but make sure that you're just constantly following up to make sure that that appeal, if needed, is submitted. So with that kind of ends our section on legislation. So at this time, if you haven't already entered in a question about this piece, please feel free to do so. I will try to answer as many questions as I can moving forward through the Q&A pod. Again, if we do not get to your question, do not worry. We will answer it and send it in a follow-up email with all the answers to the questions that we have received. So you will be able to see all of them. And please remember that we are going to start talking about ratings you should or should not see in MOEX and how to view them in MOEX. And then Caitlin will also talk about the rep and submitting data appeals. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Melanie Love to talk about effectiveness ratings and certifications that require ratings, and then also what ratings can and cannot be seen in MOEX. So take it away, Melanie.
Thank you, Marty. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is who needs ratings for certification. And there's some confusion about who needs ratings and who doesn't. Please keep in mind that only teachers who are listed as functioning in instructional roles need ratings to progress to the next certificate. And among those in instructional roles, the law that is already in place requires ratings for those renewing an advanced professional certificate and also for those progressing to the advanced professional certificate from the professional certificate. Beginning July 1, teachers progressing from the provisional to professional certificates and teachers progressing from the interim occupational certificate to the occupational certificate will need ratings. Who can view ratings in MOEX? All ratings data is reported to the Center for Educational Personnel, or CEPI, and maintained in the REP. Ratings data is pulled from the REP to be viewed in MOEX. Teachers labeled in instructional roles are able to view the effectiveness ratings in MOEX. Teachers who are not in instructional roles can't view effectiveness ratings in MOEX and should contact their school to obtain a printout of the ratings submitted to the REP. Teachers holding a valid Michigan teaching certificate should review the accuracy of their evaluation data. They can view it in MOEX if they're labeled instructional, or they can contact their district to see the evaluation data if they're labeled as non-instructional. Who does not need ratings for certification? So there are about 7 instances when an educator does not need ratings for certification. Most of them involve renewing existing certificates. If you're not progressing but renewing a provisional, professional, interim occupational, or occupational certificate, you don't need ratings, nor do you need them if you are a school administrator, licensed school guidance counselor, or school psychologist. This is a chart comparing information and how it's handled by MOEX and by the REP. Firstly, the REP is a reporting tool for districts to report information to the state. MOEX is a secure certification database for educators to create and access their private certification information. The REP may be accessed by districts anytime throughout the year. The REP is also where effectiveness ratings are stored. Effectiveness ratings entered or viewed in the REP or in MOEX cannot be seen by the public. REP data can only be seen by authorized REP users and certain authorized individuals at CEPI. MOEX data can only be seen by the teacher and certain specialists at MDE. Teachers labeled in instructional roles can log into MOEX to view their ratings. Evaluation data entered into the REP and teachers labeled in instructional roles have their ratings pulled. Evaluation data is entered into the REP and teachers labeled in instructional roles can pull their have their ratings data pulled from the REP for viewing in MOEX. MOEX does not retain the ratings data. The teacher ratings are not stored in MOEX, only accessed. So when the teacher logs out, the ratings information returns to the REP, and the ratings are no longer viewable. The MDE cannot make corrections to ratings data viewed in MOEX or pulled from the REP. And districts are able to make adjustments to effectiveness ratings in the REP during the appeals window, which is September 1 to December 1st, or December 1. Please note, only ratings found to be inaccurate can be appealed and possibly changed during the appeals window. MDE cannot make changes to ratings. They have to be changed by the school district during the appeals window, and incorrect assignment codes cannot be corrected, missing years or ratings cannot be added, and incorrect ratings cannot be removed during the appeals window. And lastly, districts may provide documentation of ratings entered into the REP. Okay. The effectiveness rating screen and how to read ratings in MOEX. So on this slide, you see what a teacher sees after logging into his or her MOEX account and clicking on the Ratings tab. As you can see in Figure 1, each year is listed in descending order. The submission correction date is the date the ratings were reported to the state or to the REP. The second column indicates the district that submitted the ratings for the educator in an instructional role. The last column is where the teacher ratings would be. When a rating is a link, as in the third rating in the ratings column, you can click on the link and see the result of the ratings appeal. In this case, Figure 2 shows that the rating for the 2014-2015 school year, 2014-2015 school year was appealed and changed from effective to highly effective. first rating was submitted to the rep in June of 2015, and the appealed rating was submitted in October of 2016. Also remember that incorrect assignment codes cannot be corrected, and missing years or ratings cannot be added during the appeals window. You may or may not see a rating for the 2010-2011 school year, depending on whether or not the school district opted in for teacher ratings. And on this particular slide, that year is missing, which means that school did not opt in for the ratings in that year. Again, incorrect assignment codes or missing years or ratings cannot be added during the appeals window. On this slide, you have a year of missing ratings, and that can be for a number of reasons. You may have been employed with a school, but they did not report to you as being employed there. Maybe you were not employed by a school district that year, and you may have been listed in an instructional role based on your assignment. You may not have been listed in an instruction role based on your assignment code. You may also not see a year of ratings because incorrect identifying information was entered for you, such as your PIC might have been incorrect. When you pull up your ratings, you might see a page like this. In this particular example, the teacher has 2 ratings for the 2013, 2014, and 2011-2012 school years. And some of the reasons could be the teacher worked for multiple districts, and each district entered an effectiveness rating, or a non-employing school district entered a rating in error. For certification purposes, the ratings default to the higher rating. If there are 2 ratings in the same year from different school districts or different schools, only 1 rating can be used to progress to the next certificate. For certification purposes, the rating defaults to the higher rating except if the teacher is applying for an advanced professional certificate. For example, if 2 ratings are received in the same year and 1 rating is ineffective, the rating would default to the lower rating because the teacher is not allowed to have any ineffective ratings in the 5 years immediately preceding the application for an advanced professional certificate. If you're presented with a page that looks like this with an error message that says no ratings available, it's usually because your district incorrectly reported that your position was non-instructional, or because you're new and you have not had any ratings reported to the rep. If your position was correctly reported as non-instructional, contact your district for an evaluation printout from the rep. Now we can take questions in the chat room. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Melanie. Again, please submit questions into the Q&A pod, and we are trying to answer as many as we can. We do have a high volume of questions right now, and with 100 participants, please understand that we may not get to every question. Again, if we do not get to your question today, we will answer it after this webinar, and it will be sent out in the completed Q&A document that we'll send to everybody in the follow-up emails. If you want to be contacted privately and have further conversations, we will share contact information at the end of this webinar as well. So now I'm going to turn the mic over to Caitlin Groom so she can talk about educator effectiveness appeals within the Registry of Educational Personnel, otherwise known as the REP. Take it away, Caitlin.
All right, thank you, Marty. So you've heard a lot about about the Registry of Educational Personnel. I would suspect that many of the teachers in the room don't have a clear idea of exactly what the REP is. I do see a few of my REP data submitters in our participants list. So this will be a total review for my REP data submitters, but for everyone else, the Registry of Educational Personnel is really the comprehensive database that public schools and non-public schools are required to submit their personnel data to. So within the REP, there are about 25 data elements that we collect for each employee record. And we do require this data submission to meet the school and safety laws for the state of Michigan. We feed all of this information to the state police so they can provide their wrap-back reports or conviction notifications, and then also to many departments within MDE to make sure that all the teachers are in compliance, and there's all sorts of stuff that happens with the data past the submission point. Included in those data elements, we collect core demographic data, so like your name, race, birthday, date of hire, what you're actually doing in the building, and that's based off of your assignment code, and then what building you're working in, and all sorts of other information about the actual work that you're doing within the building. And the reason that we're here, educator effectiveness data. So there are 2 required data collections for the REP. There's one coming up in December 1st, and that will sound familiar as the last day of the educator effectiveness appeals window. And then there is a end-of-year collection, and that data is due on June 30th. And that's where the educator effectiveness labels are submitted originally. So if you're wondering where that data is coming from, that's it. It's coming from the REP. So I'm going to walk you through kind of the process of how those are submitted. An important note is that these data appeals are submitted by REP authorized users. So once you review the data within the MOEX system, you will need to work with your district or former district, and we'll kind of go over that. But you won't be able to make these appeals submitted on your own. You'll have to work with your district HR folks, whoever their REP authorized users are, to make these corrections. So at this time, there is no plan to have a future data appeals window. This was offered last year to review 5 years worth of data, and then we extended that for the current school year. So it's looking back again at 5 years worth of data. Again, no new assignment codes or employee records can be added to your kind of employment history. Part of that is that we are required to provide all sorts of data reports to the state and federal government. And once we provide those reports, it's kind of too late. That ship has sailed. We can't go back and add new employee records and still withhold the credibility of our data. For appeals to be made within the educator effectiveness, or to be made to the educator effectiveness ratings, you will need to follow the instructions. And as most of you are teachers, this is kind of geared more towards your REP data submitters, but you can always help point them to this information, as they will need to follow these steps, and you can kind of work with them to work through some of the issues that you may have. District REP authorized users will only be able to update educator effectiveness ratings that were originally submitted by that district. So if you have moved districts and rating is inaccurate for a previous district that you worked with, your new district will not be able to submit that appeal. They will not even be able to see the data for that district. So you will need to contact your former district and work with them to have that appeal submitted within the REP. And currently, non-public schools do not have effectiveness ratings data. This is new for this fall collection, that non-public schools will be able to opt into the evaluation law and enter effectiveness ratings for the past 3 years within the non-public school personnel report. So there is information on CEPI's site about what that data submission looks like, and there's a link to the CEPI webpage at the end of this presentation. So step number 1 to entering a data appeal is being a REP authorized user. So we're not encouraging teachers to request to become REP authorized users. That is something that's typically signed off by the superintendent. So really this should be an HR person. Whoever is kind of ending up with those labels that are submitting it to the state will be the person you'll want to contact to submit the appeal. So they will log in using their MEIS account to the REP system, and hopefully your REP users are familiar with this because they're doing it more than once a year already. So after that, they're going to locate your record using the personnel search function within the main page of the REP. And they can search by any of these core demographic areas. However, with this example used, we showed John Smith. If you search for John Smith, you'll get several hundred results. It is suggested that you use the PIC number, your PIC number. So when you're viewing your ratings within the MOEX system and deciding whether you need to have an appeal submitted or not, I would recommend writing down your PIC number. That can come in handy for a couple of different reasons that we'll talk about later. But most importantly, it'll help identify your record instead of several hundred results for John Smith. So once you identify your record, or your rep authorized user does, click on that Details button, and the Details button will take you to a history of the last 5 years worth of educator effectiveness ratings for the employee. If the employee has been reported with an instructional position or with educator effectiveness data in those 5 years. So a caveat to that is that if the person has never been reported, the employee has never been reported by your district or by the district that you're logged in as, or the employee was never submitted with educator effectiveness data, there's nothing to display, so you'll get a message saying that. This is important to note because we have heard loud and clear that teachers are concerned that inaccurate educator effectiveness labels could potentially harm or hurt their chances at employment at other districts. Nowhere within the REP, as Melanie mentioned in MOEX, so nowhere within MOEX and nowhere within REP do districts have access to other districts' educator effectiveness data. So hopefully that will help reduce some of the concern there. But yeah, you can only view those details for employees that have been submitted by that district. So this is the page that you'll see if there's educator effectiveness data tied to that employee within the REP. This is very similar to the display within MOEX, a little bit different, but all the same information. So it has the submitting school district, the assignment code that the employee was submitted with, and then the current label. As you can see, it does display any and all years. So if you have a missing year within MOEX that is displaying within REP, it's important to view that assignment code, ensure that that is an instructional code. If a year is missing from both REP and MOEX, that means that you were not reported by that district for that year. So sometimes that happens where districts just miss reporting an employee, and unfortunately that falls into the category of, unfortunately we can't add new data elements like employee records for that school year. So viewing the educator effectiveness labels, you can go ahead, or the rep authorized user would be able to make the changes using that drop-down menu where it says select a value. If there are multiple school years that have inaccurate educator effectiveness labels reported, they can make changes to more than one at a time. And then, so that will show you the drop-down. I did have a question earlier about what is submitted within the REP. So essentially, this drop-down shows you what values they're reporting within the REP. Each code, 01, 02, 03, and 08 is associated with each of those educator effectiveness labels. So there is no supporting documentation or anything that's reported within the REP collection, just that value of 01, 02, and so on. So once all of the school years that need updating have been updated, the REP authorized user can scroll down to the bottom of the page and click that Save button. It is important that it's saved, otherwise they'll have to go through and make those updates again. So an important step in the data appeals process is the review of these submitted appeals. So as the rep authorized user, they should be reviewing the data before they even leave the page after they click that submit button. It is important to note that the dates will display within MOEX and REP, so that is a pretty good way for you to confirm the transactions occurred as they should. And once those changes have been made, they can leave the page, and that's kind of the end of their job. That's not the end of your part, though. So as we've kind of talked about and alluded to several times, it is very important that as the teacher and the person that will ultimately be impacted by these ratings, that you're going back into your MOEX account after these appeals have been submitted and confirming that things look good now. As I mentioned, there's no plan of having a second or third, actually, appeals window next year. So if there are inaccuracies, it's important that you're confirming that things are updated appropriately for this time. And that's kind of the process between REP and MOEX and how they kind of talk to each other. So we have had this question several times already today of what happens when you have an appeal to be submitted for a district or school that has closed. Typically this is occurring with PSA districts. So if your former district that is a PSA has closed and you find that there's inaccurate educator effectiveness labels tied to your MOEX account, this is kind of the chain of command that we would request that you follow. Your first step would be to contact the management company and or the authorizer of that PSA district. They should be retaining all of the records and paper files from that district. As we mentioned, this is not a time for you to contest the rating that you were given. This is actually if there was a data entry error. So sometimes there's been systematic things that have happened where bad data just gets entered. So they will have the paper copies of what actually, the rating that you actually received, so that they can go ahead and confirm that that should be appealed. From there, we would have you contact the ISD that was overseeing the PSA. And then the ISD can contact CEPI with any of the documentation to support the inaccurate rating, and we'll get that data appeal submitted. So, and that is on the CEPI website as well. So if you're not, or if you're having trouble getting people to buy into that process, you can always go ahead and refer them to us. So as promised, there are a couple of reasons why a teacher would not be able to see their ratings within MOEX. The number one most common reason why is that there are duplicate PIC numbers. So the REP and MOEX system do talk to each other and try to match PIC numbers based on that core information. However, sometimes weird stuff happens and they don't match exactly, so a secondary PIC is created. So if the school district is reporting one PIC number and your MOEX account is associated with a different PIC number, the systems don't know that it's the same person. If you find that your MOEX account is linked to a different PIC than what the district has in their kind of reports and their view of your educator effectiveness data, then you can go ahead or actually have the rep authorized user contact CEPI, and we can resolve those duplicate PICs so that both systems tied to the same account number. The other reason why your effectiveness ratings may not be displaying in MOEX is related to the assignment code that you were submitted with. So MOEX is not pulling in non-instructional assignments or administrator codes. So it's important that, that you ensure that the assignment code that you were reported with is deemed instructional. And if there's any concerns about that, you can contact CEPI again. However, like we mentioned, assignment codes cannot be changed, so it would really be something that would be corrected going forward. There's unfortunately not a way to correct assignment codes in reverse. So that kind of wraps up the rep side of things. We'll go ahead and leave the Q&A pod open for questions. If you have any, go ahead and submit. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it back over to Marty.
Oh, sorry, maybe you can hear me better now. Just a reminder, if we do not get to your question, that we will answer it in the Q&A pod or answer it in the Q&A document. We're going to build out a Q&A document and send it in the follow-up email, so you will get an answer if you did not get one during our time today. We have had several questions come in. We have over 100 questions in right now, so we're trying to get through as many as we can. But with that, we do want to talk a little bit about what's upcoming. So first, kind of what you can expect in these upcoming weeks. So next week, as I stated, you will receive an email that will have the completed Q&A document. And that will actually have everyone's questions, and we'll take out any personal information or anything like that and make it just a generalized Q&A with all answers built out. You'll also have a survey link for a little end of session survey. The PowerPoint deck as a PDF file. You'll also have any link to any upcoming webinars that we might have going on. I'm going to talk about some of that in a second, and also a link to this webinar recording of today. Early October, a recording of this webinar will be posted to each of the office's websites. So we have a couple links that we'll show you on the resource pages to access that. And then starting back September 1st, yes, I know it's September 21st already, so we've already had 20 days in, but until December 21st, districts and PSAs can submit those data appeals within the REP for an accurate teacher evaluation data submitted for any of the past 5 years. Also, it's important during this time to check your ratings. Make sure you find any inaccuracies, and if you do find an inaccuracy, contact your district and go through that data appeals process. Yeah, make sure to check it as soon as possible and then follow up with them to make sure it gets submitted before December 1st. So still over 2 months away, but it'll be here before we know it. We do want to mention a couple upcoming trainings and webinars that are available and out there. The first one is a Student Growth Collaborative Training. So this is actually just designed for building teams, district-level administrators such as superintendent, building-level administrators such as principal, and then a teacher leader to go and kind of come up with student learning objective. It's built around student growth and student learning objectives. If you are interested, see your administrators. If you want more information about this, I do have a link provided on the slide here. You can follow that, and that also includes the registration information as well, along with the dates. They're all coming up. The first one's actually September 26th in, I believe, Escanaba. So we're starting the UP, and then I believe there's 7 dates in different regions within the state. So make sure to check that link out. This webinar obviously was specifically for educator effectiveness ratings and filing data appeals, but we will have a teacher evaluation webinar series. It is going to be a monthly series. We're looking at having one webinar a month dedicated kind of teachers and the evaluation process. This is going to start on October 19th. It's really meant to kind of empower teachers in the evaluation process and taking ownership of your own professional growth. So look forward to that. We will be sending out communication soon on that. And once again, that will be kind of once a month. We'll have kind of a webinar for teacher evaluations. As I said before, we do have some resources that we do want to share and make sure you know are available to you. Actually going to switch views here for a second. So first, some documents. And these are just links in the webinar deck. So questions on educator evaluations, we do have a document for ensuring state evaluation data is accurate. And that basically contains a lot of the information that was shared today. There's also the educator evaluation FAQ document and the educator evaluation at a glance document that can be found on the Office of Educator Talent's webpage under EdEvals. For certification questions, you do have the How to Read Your Effectiveness Rating screen, and that will be a lot of the information that Melanie talked through with the screenshots. And then also the certification guidance document. So questions specifically related to any of the different certificates available, you can find those guidance documents by clicking that link. And then if you have questions about the Registry of Educational Personnel, there is a document with educator effectiveness appeals, which goes over kind of the screenshots that Caitlin walked us through, and also the Fall 2017 data field descriptions. And this will just describe more in detail on the data fields, what's needed to be entered in the REP, and that includes educator effectiveness ratings. So if you're looking for more detail on the REP and those descriptions, please see that document. And again, as we kind of go through and wrap up here, please note on the bottom of your screen right now, I have files available for download. A copy of the legislation is in there, and then also the webinar deck from today, a PDF file. You can download those before the end. I have a couple links to share with you as well. So these are links to our office web pages. So for the Office of Educator Talent, you can go to www.michigan.gov/mde-edevals, and that is with an S. And that'll take you directly to our web page that has lots of resources for teacher evaluations, administrator evaluations, student growth, even has links to recognition programs and such. For Office Professional Preparation Services, and certification questions, the MOEX link goes directly to the MOEX site, so you can check your effectiveness data. Also, the Obtain Renew Educator Certification page has links to lots of information about certification. And then finally, for CEPI's website, and that's the Center for Educational Performance and Information, please go to www.michigan.gov/CEPI, and that will have information on the rep if you're interested in more of that. So you look in the top right-hand side, if you don't mind, to take a minute to just fill out this end of webinar survey. It's a very general survey, but your feedback is important to us. A link to the survey will also be provided within the follow-up email that I'll be sending next week. And as you kind of see here, this is our contact information. So if you did not get your question answered today and we send out the Q&A document and you find that's still not sufficiently answered, please feel free to contact us. Or if you just have a matter that takes more than a quick answer in a Q&A pod, please feel free to call us or contact us through email. So for the Office of Educator Talent, you can contact mde-edevals@michigan.gov. I'm also listing my own work phone line, so this will go directly to me, 517-335-2669. If you have any questions regarding the legislation or any questions at all about educator effectiveness ratings, please feel free to give me a call or an email. For certification questions, please contact MOEX Support. And that email is moexsupport@michigan.gov, as simple as that. And their phone line is 517-373-3310. And then for questions on the rep, please contact CEPI at cepi@michigan.gov, 517-335-0505, extension 3. With that, we are at the end of our hour here. So if you do have a minute to take the end of webinar survey, please feel free. We will continue to try to answer a couple of questions in the Q&A pod for the next couple of minutes. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We do feel this is an important topic, and we want to make sure that you guys get the answers that you need. So again, we will be sending that Q&A document out if you did not get them answered. Yeah, feel free to take a couple more minutes to throw in last-second questions. That's fine as well. We will end the meeting in the screen at 5 o'clock, right around 5 o'clock. So with that, again, thank you from all of us here at Michigan Department of Education and CEPI. But thank you for joining us. Have a great night.